What's going on, folks? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to talk to you guys about Thursday night songs. I wanted to do a top 10 list of songs that I feel like are perfect for like a Thursday night. Not necessarily the wildest nights of the week, Friday and Saturday, but definitely pretty close. Or I feel like Thursday night might as well be like the unofficial kind of pseudo weekend, just because there's a lot of folks who are so much dying for Friday that they kind of feel similarly about Thursday. And if you have a good enough job where you can take a 3 day weekend where you only have to work Monday through Thursday and you get Friday, Thursday, if you get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off and your weekend starts Thursday, it's definitely a good kind of concept for that. So I definitely kind of feel like there's some moments to give a more viable definition of a Thursday night song. To me, it's just kind of a song that you'd listen to, or it just doesn't quite have the energy that makes you want to take off your shirt and go wild and plumb crazy, but it's still got like a passive aggressive kind of burst of energy towards it that gets you more excited than you would be on a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. It's something to say, well, damn, it's almost Friday. I can't quite party full blown yet, but I can do the closest thing. Where it'd kind of be like, yeah, I can go to the bar Thursday night, but I can only have like 3 or 4 beers as opposed to 7 or 8 like I could on the weekend. And that's just kind of the concept of me trying to describe these next 10 songs, is just kind of saying, hey, these are some songs that are the party before the party. And that's kind of like the before appearances and that type of stuff, the appetizers, the prenatal stuff. I kind of feel like that's the atmosphere. So without further ado, we'll get into it. So song number one that I feel like is a Thursday night song would be Headlines by Drake off his Take Care album. Now, this one kind of has like this kind of passive aggressive mellow energy to it, where it's just kind of a different, odd single for Drake because normally he's crooning to the ladies and sometimes, posturing and having his more arrogant raps and that type of stuff. But I really feel like this one it feels odd that this is even a Drake song, is because it's so out of the ordinary for a topic for Drake. He's usually doing like pop rap or pop or R&B type stuff, but this one is kind of him just rapping through the song, kind of making like a standard mainstream rap song. That this, I mean, I know it's intended, maybe Drake was intending to make it be like a turned up song and a get ready to get crunk type song, but I just feel like the energy just was not quite there to do that. I definitely feel like this kind of has a secret resolve of being more Thursday night, where it's not wild in the middle of the night Friday night, but it's a close, like, hey, wait until tomorrow kind of thing. I like that approach from Drake. Song number two is Lowrider by Cypress Hill off their Stone Raiders album. I recently reviewed them and wound up liking this song quite a bit. I definitely feel like an ode to lowrider cars out in California and that type of stuff. I really appreciated this one, but the energy and the production is so mellow. It just does not strike me as like a weekend or Friday night kind of song. I definitely saw it as like kind of more of like, hey, things are getting ready to go down. We're just gonna get a couple pounds and handshakes and that type stuff, and find out where find out how to get some drink and some bitches and that type stuff, just to be able to get things going. It just seems kind of like a more preparatory kind of song, more so than full blown in the crest of the night. So I definitely give Cypress Hill credit for that. Just real kind of smooth, mellow production. Song number three is Still Framed by Trapped off of their self-titled Trapped album from 2002. Now, really with Trapped, the song that got the lion's share of like their popularity back in those days was Headstrong. It's a pretty awesome song. Definitely has a nice quick pace to it, easy kind of cruising around, kind of makes you feel dramatic when you listen to that in the car or something. But I feel like the second single that they intended for the project, while it was nowhere near as good or as infectious as Headstrong, I do feel like it works pretty damn well as a Thursday night kind of song, because it is kind of got some mildly litty vibes about it. It's kind of like, hey, it's not like the full enchilada, but it's probably like a quarter of the enchilada, and that's just kind of the situation as far as that kind of goes. I just feel like the mellow production, not as catchy as Headstrong, kind of just here and there. It's kind of a song that maybe you wouldn't listen to 6 or 7 days out the week, but maybe 2 or 3, something just about a sixth or a fifth of like the energy that you have for Headstrong should probably be with Still Frame. I definitely feel like that belongs in the Thursday night type crowd, because I will listen to Still Frame, but not as often as I would listen to Headstrongs. That's kind of the thing. Song number four is Lithium by Nirvana off of their Nevermind album from 1991. Now, really, grunge was kind of doing new things back in the early 90s when this song came out, and it was just kind of underneath the impression that this was kind of a very lazy album to start collecting attention. Like, I definitely want to say that Smells Like Teen Spirit was a pretty massive hit. That was one of the biggest songs of the 90s. But then the other two singles, like Come As You Are, was kind of, I mean, they just were so lazy and kind of hazy. It was just kind of like, none of them really felt like weekend numbers to me. I mean, really, I might have listened to Smells Like Teen Spirit at like a Friday, Saturday night kind of shindig, but Lithium really doesn't strike me as that. It just feels like a song that you're listening to right as you get off work, 6 o'clock p.m. The sky is pink purple from like the sun setting and that type of stuff. And it's like, hey, I feel like doing something today. I think I'm going to, but it's not quite the full blown Friday energy where corks are being popped and women are twerking and dancing heavily and that type of stuff. I just feel like Lithium is a pretty solid rock song just with that sort of energy, and it's a great song. You know, some of these I've talked that I don't like them as much, but Lithium is an awesome song. It's definitely one that even if the energy is not full blown feral, I still feel like it's good enough to check out and kind of have for a Thursday night type of fare. Song number 5 is Treasure by Bruno Mars uh, off of his Unorthodox Jukebox album from 2012. Now, this was the third single. Bruno Mars, for the second time in a row, got two number ones, and then he also got a number 5. He did that with his first album with the Lazy Song. He did it the second time around with the third single, Treasure. And this is kind of like a disco electro pop kind of song. This real kind of reminds me of something from the late 70s or 80s or something. And Bruno Mars just knocked it out of the park. But the thing about it is Bruno Mars does not really, he didn't do any club songs. I mean, you look after it, like the whole Unorthodox Jukebox and the whole doo-wops and hooligans did not have like club songs and go out to the bar and drink kind of songs. So it's really interesting to kind of see Bruno Mars in that field just because it's not often that, I mean, the fact that he waited until the third single to kind of give off a dance club song, and it just is it's so lackadaisical. It just doesn't have the bite of Locked Out of Heaven and like Grenade and some of those number ones that Bruno Mars got, but I still feel like it's an A minus song in my opinion. It's an A minus song in terms of like the catchiness, and just it lacks a slight tad of the hook, but for the rest of the matter on the project, it basically has an enjoyable feat, and it's just like, you know, for Bruno Mars stepping out, it's not quite Friday energy where Bruno Mars is popping corks and there's just women everywhere, but I do feel like it has enough emphasis to really kind of say that it's a modest time. I think it to me can almost be seen in a blue collar sense, and something that you could hear at work right as you're getting off for the weekend and that type of stuff. It's got a dance groove to it, dance club, bar, that type of stuff. It just works real well. So number 6 is We Run This by Missy Elliott off of her album The Cookbook. This was kind of a sluggish single. I mean, I feel like compared to the song Lose Control, which was the lead single from The Cookbook, that definitely gave me vibes. Lose Control with Ciara definitely gave me vibes of a weekend song automatically. Just something to go out to the dance club, dance with some women, dance with some other people, that type stuff, and just kind of have a fun, kind of lightly mild club induced night, this kind of in a party sense. But We Run This was another single that Missy Elliott intended it for, but the catchiness was just subdued, and it's nowhere near as good as Lose Control. Just the addictiveness of that, but it's not a bad song. It's just I think I like Hand Over Fist. I like Lose Control better than We Run This, but it's just such a lazy kind of offspring kind of song. It just kind of feels like, I mean, if you were to hear this song on the radio, I just don't think I'll ever hear this song on the radio, but it's too bad because it's pretty decent. It's kind of like that secondary type feel towards it, but I still appreciate the song enough to say that it's worth hearing when you do hear it. It's just not as addictive, and that's kind of the thing. It's good. I definitely feel like it suits the Friday or Thursday night kind of feel, but it just doesn't have the instantly connectability that Lose Control does. But it's definitely serviceable, and it's pretty exciting for like a Thursday night if things are kind of boring or starting to pick up. I mean, it has the energy to be able to get you moving, so pay attention to that. Song number 7 is Mr. Crowley from Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz from 1980. This is probably the oldest song on here, but obviously I had to pick Mr. Crowley just as a Thursday night song just because Ozzy's biggest song is Crazy Train. I mean, everyone talks about that song in terms of rock music. It's one of the definitive rock songs, especially of the 80s and such. But, there was another single from Blizzard of Oz. It's just not nearly talked about as much as Crazy Train. That's Mr. Crowley. And I kind of feel like Mr. Crowley has a pretty identifiable guitar pitch in the song. It's very similar to like Smoke on the Water and Crazy Train with the instantly recognizable riff, but it's just not nearly as addictive. I mean, Ozzy's hook on Crazy Train was just infectious. It got into your ears and just became like an earworm and that type stuff. But Mr. Crowley kind of does that, but it just feels really subdued energy compared to that. It was so surprising that Ozzy wasn't able to have two. But these are albums that were back in the 80s. Most of the time, you did just buy an album for two singles. And that was really about it. But it's just like, I feel like, Iron Man is Batman, Mr. Crowley is Robin. Where most of the time Batman gets the sheer amount of the head play from the peers that he saves, but Robin is got just like Mr. Crowley. Mr. Crowley probably gets talked about. I would guess like maybe like a tenth or a 12th of the time compared to Crazy Train. But it is a good song. It's just not one I very commonly listen to. It seems to me it'd be suitable for a Thursday night where it's kind of like, hey, this is not a song I'd go crazy to on a Friday or Saturday, but it is it's kind of a pending party kind of song. Song number 8 is What's My Age Again by Blink 182, and it's off of their 1999 album Enema of the State. I could see, like, they even say in this song that it's a Friday night when they're doing their actions towards what they're doing, but to me, this seems like more of a Thursday song just because, as old as this song is, I feel like the definitive party song that Blink 182 dropped from those days was All the Small Things. That one just feels so much more of like a party song and a Friday song and that type stuff, as far as like going out and popping corks and having champagne and that type stuff. You can pretty much hear it at almost any night venue for the most part, and it's a classic kind of rousing party starter. But What's My Age Again kind of, I don't want to say it fumbled the energy, but it's a lot more subdued compared to All the Small Things, but it is serviceable. I mean, it definitely, I that's why I picked it as a Thursday night song, is because it is kind of a party song. They're talking about going out and enjoying the night and that type stuff with women and such, but it's just kind of more, I feel like All the Small Things just has too much more bursts of energy, where if you had to listen to, I mean, I could probably see both of these songs being played in a Friday night, What's My Age Again and All the Small Things, but I would really have to say that I think that What's My Age Again, just based upon the mellowness, they can just be used at different nights. And that's just kind of the thing. That's what I would see from it. The energy from the song just kind of feels less fiery. So they have two party days. This is kind of like a mild party day and a rave party day. That's what you get from those. But song number 9 that I feel like deserves to be on this list is Clarity. And Clarity is a blue collar song. I definitely think this song has been played at work. It's about a 10-year-old song now. Zed did a great job with it, but I really see this as like a blue collar, white collar kind of song. A place where you're going to hear music and you can actually listen to the radio, but you can't focus on it entirely. So it just comes off to me as if you have to go to work one more day, something like that, but you still want to step out for the night. I think Clarity is a good song to do that. It just kind of has like that energy of you're trapped in the grid of like blue collar work and that type stuff, but it's still you're able to enjoy yourself and have the occasional drink in that kind of moment. It's not quite as dance ready, but it kind of is. I mean, I think EDM kind of matched and synchronized with blue collar, but it's just kind of such a mellow and kind of reserved kind of energy that it just feels great for a Thursday night, because it's not like you're really cutting loose yet, but it's the closest thing. Song number 10 is Bet You Can't Do It Like Me by D. Pharrell. And, if you know D. Pharrell, you know their largest song, Laffy Taffy, has instantly recognizable beat, helped popularize snap rap and that type stuff. The second single that they tried dropping after Laffy Taffy didn't even get like to the top 20, 30, 40, or 50 or anything like that. This song actually charted at like 73, 75 out of 100 on the Billboard 100. And it just, this was the reason why D4L fell apart after this, because this song didn't catch on. I think it's a good song. I think it pretty much is. The beat is not nearly as catchy as Laffy Taffy, but I do like it. It's definitely kind of a serviceable and kind of approachable, kind of stable kind of song, but it just doesn't have the infectiousness and addictiveness. And plus, Fabo is not nearly as addictive on this song as he was on Laffy Taffy. He goes first again to try, but he just wasn't able to get lightning in a bottle twice. But I do like the song. I can definitely listen to it, and I see it as a Thursday night song because I feel like Laffy Taffy is definitely a weekend song to get some bodies moving and dances and asses shaking and that type of stuff. But Bet You Can't Do It Like Me just doesn't have that same emphasis. I mean, I just can't see as many people wanting to go full blown crazy to this song like Laffy Taffy. But I think in a Thursday night setting where you just heard Laffy Taffy like the previous weekend and you hear Bet You Can't Do It Like Me the following Thursday, I think it can at least hold its job as far as being like a placeholder until the real big dogs show up. That's kind of the thing. And so, kind of an extra song I'm going to throw in here is like an honorable mention is J Rock's Win song from his Redemption album from 2018. Like, this kind of reminds me of a sports song. I definitely can see this song being like a sports song that you'd hear at like a basketball, football, baseball stadium, something like that, or hockey, someplace where you'd hear sports. It's just very triumphant and bravado induced, but I feel like the energy is maybe too triumphant to really be like a party song. It just feels more of like a victory lap kind of song. I look at the energy behind that, and to me, it just sounds like it's kind of like an approach for something that's bigger that's going to happen. So this is kind of just a victory lap until it does. And you would think a victory lap would be on Thursday before you go off and celebrate your victory lap. That's kind of the thing. So this is kind of, it's definitely a sports song. It's definitely a sports song, and it gives me vibes as far as like a Thursday night, because it's not quite as crazy as J Rock can get, but it does kind of work as like a kind of haphazard, kind of halfway there kind of energy towards it. But it's just, it's very triumphant. But I look after it and kind of have to say that there are better party songs, probably even from J Rock, that there could be for the Fridays and Saturdays. So that's basically my list. I would have to say I definitely appreciate Thursday night songs. I don't look at them like, if someone, like for any musicians that see a song go into a Thursday playlist, it does not necessarily mean that it's a crap song and it doesn't work, it sucks or something. That does not necessarily mean it's a crap song and the song sucks. It just means that the energy is not quite as feral for a weekend. I mean, if you're just wanting a mellow Friday and you don't want the energy all the way turned up, yeah, you can insert these Thursday songs to Friday and kind of have it. But in terms of, folks that should be doing this sort of thing, people living it up because they're 25 and 30 and 35, having a hell of a time and that type of stuff, I just would have to say that Thursday songs are kind of like the next best thing to waiting until you can actually cut loose. And that's kind of the concept. So I saw it as that, and it's kind of how it is.